a guilt-shaming kind of atmosphere. And I have always carried around a little more guilt than I should about that.
And that's not a good feeling.
No, it's awful. So Saturday morning, there's a $2.5 million carryover for the Pick Six at Gulfstream Park down in Florida. So a good friend of mine.
Okay, not being a gambling expert, what kind of rate? What are we talking about?
You have to pick the winner of 6 consecutive races.
Okay, like you're talking about horse races.
Horse races.
Okay.
Yes. You have to pick the winner of 6 consecutive races. And I didn't ask my friend if I could talk about him on the radio. I probably should.
Just don't name names.
No, he's well known. He's a fairly well-known person. Fairly. So I called him up on Thursday. And I said, hey, we got to take this thing down. And so he was in another country at the time. And but he was very excited. He said, I'm in. So Friday night, I'm handicapping the 6 races. He's handicapping the 6 races. Saturday morning, I'm like a kid on Christmas.
Hey, really
and
quick,
what's
I
at
just want to
stake?
say I was there when he asked this person if he would go in with him, and he got off the phone. He's like, I love him. He just gave me all this money, and I said he just trusted you with his money. That's because he trusts you. Do you feel that kind of pressure?
It was a team.
But you know going in that there's a chance you're not going to win.
But here, what Nicole overheard, here was the conversation. I said, hey, there's $2.5 million Pick Six carryover at Gulfstream on Saturday. Want to go after it? In. I mean, it's that quick.
No hesitation. Not a second wasted.
Right. So now you have to decide how much are you going to invest. And by the way, this is all legal.
Yeah.
Online horse racing is legal in this state and in this country. So we have to decide.
And did you tell him what amount you were talking about? Or he just said in.
Well, the first pass, through, before we talked, it would have ended up costing. I don't even want to say.
Okay, just say it because now that makes it much more interesting.
Well, we knew we had to whittle it. We knew we had to whittle it way down.
Which was.
The starting point was $4,500, so $2,250 each. And I'm not made of money, neither is he, so that's way too much. So, okay, we'll talk at 10 a.m. and we'll figure out which horses we can eliminate. So, so we have the fantastic. We're on the phone for 52 minutes. And we went through all 6 races painstakingly, and he didn't like this horse of mine. I go, okay, let's eliminate that one, and then we get to one of his horses. And
and by the way, I asked him why he didn't ask some other friends of his that might go in on this, and he said he didn't want to split the money with them.
Oh yeah, because there's a big take.
And now the pot was up to by post time.
Yeah.
$16 million.
Oh my word!
Yeah.
Okay, and you're talking about that horse that he liked.
Yes. So I said, yeah, here's why that one's not going to win, and I explain it to him, and he goes, okay, we'll throw that one out. We get our total investment down under 4 figures, so it was
each, right?
No. Under 4 figures total.
Oh,
so
wow.
under 500 each.
Okay.
So now it's manageable. So the first race we hit, the second race we hit, we're calling each other after the races. He's watching them in another country. I'm watching them. Then the third race. His horse that I talked us out of won.
Of course.
Oh my!
You knew that was going to happen.
Wow.
It's just like leaving that slot machine and then the next person wins the giant jackpot.
Yeah.
So you got him into it. And
well,
you lost.
No, he got himself into it. We're all adults here, Nicole. We're all adults here. But anyway.
So
yada, yada, yada. I had to come to work today. That's the bottom line. So I didn't hit the Pick Six at Gulfstream. That's all you really need to know.
Okay.
And how did your friend
Did
react?
the rest of it go your way?
He was
So
fine. No, I think we missed one other late.
Okay.
So it just ended the pain earlier. He acted. He was very nice about it. In fact, I'll tell you. I'm trying to find the text. No, wait, that's a voicemail from him.
He didn't say, Dori, I'm never going to listen to you again.
No, I initiated it. Here's, let me find the text. I'll tell you exactly how we handled this. I wrote frick because I never swear, either texting or I said, frick, I feel awful. That was your horse. As the kids would say, that's my bad. I'm just sick and I'm sorry. So I owned up to it right away.
Good. Yeah.
He wrote back, I wouldn't. I rolled over that horse like a black lab. And those workouts were just saying blah, 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 blah. He said, but my thoughts were right on. So anyway.
So that was your
So I'm carrying around all this
guilt-filled weekend.
Yeah. Then, one other side subject, and then I'll get to the big lead. So then I wrote a piece on My Northwest that seemed to tick off a bunch of people over the weekend.
Was that Gonzaga one?
Yeah, right after Gonzaga lost. And as I've told you, Mark Few is one of my favorite coaches in all of sports, and the run of success for Gonzaga is absolutely incredible. But as I pointed out, liberal identity politics is what knocked Gonzaga out of the NCAA tournament. Because while you were in Hawaii last week, Ursula, a professor at Gonzaga, she was having a class to explain. Have you ever seen the Disney movie Moana?
I've seen parts of it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
She was having an evening program to explain how the Disney movie Moana is nothing but a 90-minute metaphor for rape culture. And I said, well, look, the Jesuits, let me see what I wrote about this. I said the Jesuits used to do okay in the NCAA tournament. Loyola of Illinois won it all in 63. University of San Francisco won it in 55 and 56. Even our own Seattle U, when they had Elgin Baylor, they made the championship game in 1958. But then the Jesuits went off the deep end with liberal politics, and God would be too embarrassed. If they have a professor who says that Moana is rape culture in the form of a Disney movie, and then one of the commenters reminded me, Melissa Click, that whack job University of Missouri professor who was fired after trying to kick a student journalist off of covering an event. Where does she go to work? Gonzaga! God was simply too embarrassed to have Gonzaga representing him in the Final Four.
So what kind of response did you get to your little post there?
As always, everyone agreed with me, said that I made total sense.
April Fools.
No, I wrote it on Saturday. But look at this.
You did something, though, that you say shouldn't be done.
What's that?
Which is that people love sports.
Oh, shouldn't politicize sports.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But in this case, I needed to point out, and let me point out to you, who's in the Final Four? Auburn. They're in Alabama. I'm just looking at the electoral map for 2016. Alabama, red state. Texas Tech, need to say, red state. Michigan State. Michigan went red in 2016. And Virginia did not, but Tony Bennett is one of the great men of God in all of sports, as you and I discussed a week and a half ago. And so God wanted good old America representing him in the Final Four, and not the liberal identity politics. So sadly, Gonzaga, they could have won it all this year, but they decided to go off the deep end with
and go after Disney.
Yeah, with a
God
rape culture
Disney.
Nonsense by a professor and hiring Melissa Click. Of course, God's not going to let them in the Final Four. Should we get on to the big lead?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think for Gonzaga fans, too soon, Dori. Too soon.
I'm a Gonzaga fan. I love their basketball program. I'm just telling administration, you gotta stop the nonsense. That's all. It's advice.
The Big Lead, Dori Monson Show exclusive.
A couple of hours ago, I had a chance to talk with Eric Stark, the Metro bus driver who found himself in the middle of all of that madness, 4 o'clock in the afternoon last week, when a gunman opened fire on him and his bus. Eric was struck in the left chest and still was able to back up the bus and help guide the 12 passengers and himself to safety or relative safety. But he told me what happened that afternoon in Lake City, Sandpoint. So you're driving down the road, and tell me when it went from regular to nightmarish.
Yeah, so I'm driving the 75 inbound, which means from kind of north to south towards Seattle. And I turned the corner off of 125th where it turns into Sandpoint Way. And so I'm coming around the corner, and I look up ahead at the bus zone at 123rd, and I see a guy who looks like he's running for the bus stop. So he's running for the bus stop, and he tripped and just face planted the pavement. I mean, this guy fell hard, and I thought, oh, man, he's hurt. You know, I'm probably going to have to call for medical attention for this guy. And as I'm getting closer, he rolled over on his back, and his arm was out to the side, his right arm, and I'm like, is that a gun in his hand? Looked like he had a Glock in his hand. Mm. And I thought, well, that's weird. And then he got to his feet, like very calmly. He got to his feet. He got into a shooting stance, just like you're shooting a paper target at the range.
Yeah.
And at this point, I've stopped the bus. I'm not at the bus zone because I don't know what's going on. I still don't know what's going on because it's just so surreal. And then I hear the report of the gun, and the glass in the windshield breaks, and I felt, something hit my side.
And so he was struck in the left chest, did not hit his heart, thank goodness. He was able to back up the bus, and he was telling me that, one of the passengers said, let us off. And he said, no, I'm not going to let you off when there's a gunman right there. And it was just, a wonderful job by this man. And I asked him, we now know that 2 people died that day. Eric and one other person, school teacher, second grade teacher, remain hospitalized. And I asked him what he thought about that gunman. What are your overall feelings about and toward the shooter?
Yeah, I don't know anything about the guy. And the thing that's odd to me about him saying he was blackout drunk is how he got up after having fallen down, I go to the range and stuff. I know what it looks like to get into a shooting stance, and he sure had the ability, even blackout drunk as he claims, to get into a pretty good shooting stance, take aim, and the first couple shots that hit the bus were, right on target.
Right.
So I don't know about that. I personally don't have any ill will towards the guy. I don't know what his issues are. He obviously has issues because not everybody who even gets blackout drunk goes around and wants to just take random lives.
Right.
So he's got some issues, and I hope he gets the help he needs because he doesn't have to answer to me. He's going to have to answer to God, and I don't want him to be on the wrong side of that.
Eric Stark, the Metro bus driver. If you want to hear the entire interview right after we get off the air, we'll have our podcast loaded from the noon hour today. But he's a good man and a good Metro driver and public citizen. So thanks to him for sharing his story. And I'm really, really sorry for what he and everyone else had to go through on an otherwise beautiful afternoon in Seattle last week. Next up in the big lead.
The big lead. Your tax dollars at work.
Oh, hold on to your wallets. I've got some really bad news financially. As we've been telling you for about a year now, Jenny Durkin has one goal for this region. She wants to toll every single road. And they want to start, they've started already with 520 and the hot lanes and 167. Next up is downtown Seattle. They call it congestion pricing. And Jenny Durkin desperately wants to get your money that way.
But if you look across the globe, those cities that have implemented congestion pricing have had the greatest success on getting people out of vehicles and reducing vehicles in city.
And as I said, Jenny Durkin, I know she's a lawyer. I know she was a U.S. attorney, and I assume that she has some smarts. But that's just such a stupid thing to say because first of all, there's no other city in the United States that does congestion pricing for downtowns. And the cities that have it, like London, have a fully developed, built-out subway and train system, something that is not going to be available here for 30 years, if ever. With those clowns at Sound Transit involved. So to compare us, but here's the bad news. The one firewall has been no other city in the United States has it. Well, New York City has just announced that they are going to put in congestion pricing if you want to drive into Midtown Manhattan, $11.50.
That's crazy. I can't imagine doing that. But I have to see my mother, and it's just something that would greatly impact me.
I work in Manhattan a lot, and I don't mind paying for it to get in there. And if it helps congestion, even better.
The bottom line is the city is a competitive city. It is a world city. We can't have a world city if our transit system is running 65% on time and our traffic is moving at 4.7 miles an hour.
Okay, so if you got to drive into Manhattan every day, it's going to cost you over $3,000 a year. And surrounding New Jersey, Connecticut, people who say we don't have, we got a lot of people who drive into the city. And you're going to nick us for $3,000 a year? But yes, they are. And I guarantee you that Jenny Durkin is going to cite the fact that Seattle would not be the first, because she's already told you that that's what she wants. She wants, not because it'll reduce congestion, but because it will be a massive new tax revenue vehicle for the city of Seattle. And for those of us who don't live in the city but have to drive into the city, it's taxation without representation as well. But they don't care. And if they can nick us for $3,000 a year, you better believe they'll do it. And I've told you before, this is the fight of our lives. To stop from tolling every street and to stop an income tax from ever coming into this state, whether they call it capital gains or excise or anything else. And I'm up for the fight. I hope you are as well. We cannot allow this to happen to families, especially working-class families around here. That is your big lead this hour.
The Big Lead on KIRO Radio.
First, let's go check the news, and then we'll count down our favorite sound bites of the day, and it's a really good batch coming up next.
This hour of the Dori Monson Show